Good morning. Is everybody out there? Everybody hear this okay?
Oh, no, they can't. This is happening.
Oh, no, just hit skip ad. Did that?
You're on a pretty big delay.
Okay. Okay, all right. Looks like everybody's coming in. All right, so thanks for coming to the live stream. We're going to try to run this. I've got a video encoder up here, some kind of chat window, Wireshark up, so there's a lot going on. I see, I see some chats coming in. One thing to know about the chat and about the video is that there's about a 15 to 20 second delay. So after I say something, it's a little bit awkward for me because I won't see questions until about 15 to 20 seconds later. So I've got Brandy over here trying to keep me in line and let me know if there's questions. And she's also going to be writing them down. If I don't get to the questions, then what we'll probably do is have a follow-up episode where we start to answer some of those questions.
Jeff Jameson says he's getting an error.
Oh, okay. And Joe, let's see. Joe says he's getting an error. Anybody else getting that error? Or are we good to go? Of course, that's 20-second delay on this, so I'll know in 20 seconds if we have it. So we'll look at I'll go ahead and go over some more things. So yesterday when I did this, okay, mine is fine, looks good. So yesterday when I did this, testing it, the live stream failed just out of nowhere, and all of YouTube broke. Because it looks like there's a lot of people trying to do the same thing right now. So I know YouTube's been throttling back some things and have been messing with their side to try to accommodate everybody who's doing a live stream right now. So if we drop out, I'm still going to have this thing stood back up. So it should be fine. It looks like some people are having, a few problems here and there, but just expect that. I think that's just a YouTube thing with kind of the environment that we're in right now. Hopefully everyone's doing okay with the whole virus thing at the moment. If you're sick, please take care of yourself. I've been out of work kind of for about 2 weeks now. They approved some telework yesterday, or a couple. We have this weird schedule that we're doing, so I've got to spend some time home working on the business, so give us some time to do some of this stuff. You broke YouTube, Jason. That's I hope not. So just some context with the thing that we're going over today. A little bit of I guess I give you kind of a prerequisite for this course. So if you found your way kind of stumbling into this and you're like, what am I taking? We're going to do kind of a beginner's lesson in Wireshark today. So there are a few things that you kind of need to know about that. If you have a lot of problems with knowing about IPs and MAC addresses, and your general networking knowledge isn't so great, this might be a bit over your head. Where this particular class comes from is out of the VoIP 101 course that I have. This is the Wireshark portion of that course. And so before this, what we do is we go over basic networking. You get your hands on and building cables and messing with the infrastructure. You've already stood up a box on your own on the network. There's been a lot that you've kind of done in the first half of a day of this, or 3/4 of the day. And then the last part of the day, what we do is go over Wireshark and go over some captures and how to mess with that network traffic and capture that network traffic. So if you feel lost at times, just know that there is some pre-stuff that you probably should know to get heavy into this, but if you're comfortable with some networking knowledge, then you should be okay. What we're going to try to do here is for those guys who've used Wireshark a lot, it might go a little slow for you because this is kind of a beginner's course on it. However, there probably are going to be some things that you're going to pick up from this that you may have forgotten about, or you may not have known about. Some tips and things to try to keep things a little more organized. We're going to just kind of step through little things that you can change with the interface, stuff like that. And there'll also be some exercises. So during the exercises, I'm probably going to just step away from the camera or just kind of go silent for a while for you guys to work on the exercises. If you did not get the exercise material, if you scroll up in the chat, you can find the link that I sent. In fact, I'll go ahead and put it again in the chat. It's on the website, the Skinny R&D website. If you go to that link, you will find that you'll need, there's a file there you'll need to download that has 4 Pcap files. Yeah, that's right, Brandy just reminded me, the link's in the description as well for this video. You'll need to install Wireshark. You'll need to install something called Network Miner. Hopefully we'll get to that. And there's a PDF that has a lot of Wireshark filters. And so you might find it helpful to download that as well. I think that's it. Yeah, and for the file, there's an MD5 hash down at the bottom of the page. So if somehow somebody's slipped a new file in on you, you can compare that hash if you need to. All right, great. Let's see. So make sure I covered everything here. Do we have any questions that come through so far? All right, cool. If you didn't get the materials, you're below the national average IQ. Okay. Nice. All right, then we'll get started. I'm going to shrink my window here. Kind of get my fat head out of the way. Put it over to the side. And let's open up Wireshark. So if you haven't opened up Wireshark already, be sure to do so. I imagine if you've not opened Wireshark in a while, or you haven't opened it ever, it's first time installing it, you probably won't see as much trash on the initial window as I have on mine, or near the number of interfaces up like I've got on mine for now. I'm gonna reopen it just to make sure I don't have any trouble. You can, if you have Wireshark up in your side command bar, you can do that, or you just type Wireshark. Imagine some of you, if you haven't opened it for a while, it's going to ask to update it. I'm using the updated version of Wireshark. And we're going to go over this particular part of the software later. But first, if you will go and open up the Pcap called Lots Going On. It's 000 Lots Going On. It's one of the Pcaps that were in the file from the website. Oh yeah, well, you never know if what I'm trying to get you to download. I'd run antivirus if I were you. I mean, I might be, everybody needs a botnet, right? Anyway, so I've got the Lots Going On packet capture up, and what we're going to do is just kind of go through some of the different parts of the screen here on Wireshark at first. And as we do that, we're going to kind of dig into these packets a little bit at a time. I'm going to give you some time to mess with them. So the top pane here is just kind of a summary. So what we did is we opened up a Pcap, and these are all the packets that were captured and saved into that Pcap file. Pcap is generally kind of the standard file that these things are saved to. There's another one we're going to talk about later that's kind of a newer standard that's used that has more detail about the packet capture. But this is the top pane here is just a summary of what's in each one of those packets. And so by default, you've got a packet number, so when it came in along the stream, the time it came in starting with 0, an IP source, destination, the protocol that was used, how big that packet was, and some general info. And so just kind of gives you a general overview up here at the top. The middle pane gives you information about what's inside a particular packet, right? So if I just click on one of these, and let me get a better one here. Let's do a TCP packet. It starts off and it shows you the internals of that packet and what's going on inside each one. If you just click little arrows to the side, it'll drop those that information down for you to take a look at. The interesting thing about the way Wireshark did this, though, is that, and it's one of the things we kind of get into in the class, is that this is put together just like an actual data packet would. So the bottom line here is kind of like your application layer, application data, right? So any sorts of data that you know, the actual substance of the packet is going to be down here in this bottom area. Also in this area is your port information, so your transport layer stuff like your UDP or TCP kind of dials it out, what ports are being used and whether, you know, what type of packet it is. Your next layer up, so if you're thinking about your packet being built from, you have data and then you assign a particular port to that data, the next thing that's kind of enveloped on top of that is the IP address information. So the next line up will be your IP address information, your source and destination. What's happening there. So you have your data, your port information, your IP information, and then after that you have the hardware information, the MAC address information that's layered over the top of that. So one pop up here, and you see, okay, well, we have a destination and we have a source address and we have the kind of we have the MAC address, and right now it's actually resolving some of that MAC address information to let you know kind of what kind of devices were used. After that, you have the frame information, which is just the physical layer stuff that's kind of strapped on top of all of that before it goes out. So, you know, if you ever have kind of a question about like how packets are built, Wireshark's really good at laying that out for you and showing you like from top to, I guess from bottom to top, how that packet was built and layered off. Let's see where we're at. Kind of the first thing we can do is take a look at packet number 21. So if you find packet number 21, click on it. This is just kind of to show how these two panes kind of work together. So in packet 21, it gives us our general information up top, but then let's say, you know, this packet is a DNS packet. So a DNS packet, what it does is it goes out, and when you use a browser, you type in yahoo.com, hit enter. Well, your computer might not know where yahoo.com is, right? So what it does is it goes out to a domain name server. It figures out what IP address is associated with that domain that you typed in. And so you can expect an initial request and then a response to that. And so, you know, in Wireshark, you can start to look in these two panes to figure out how that occurred, right? So I'm telling you that packet 21 is a reply to a previous packet. And so the question is, how do you know that? I'll give you a couple seconds to kind of look around in the middle pane there. There's even some clues elsewhere, but just a couple seconds, take a look and see how you would, what is the reply for, you know, where was the initial request for this reply that's in packet 21. So if you take a look at this little bottom layer here, this bottom application layer, open it up, you will see that we have the initial request. It says there was a query here for google.com, and the answer to that, you know, the reason that you're getting an answer is because there was a request in packet 15. Now the great thing about Wireshark is you can click on this hyperlink Well, I guess you used to could, not can anymore. But yeah, it'll tell you, you know, where to go. So it says packet 15. The other thing you can look at is over here on the side of the top pane, you have these little arrows. So it says, you know, this was an answer for this particular packet up here at number 15. So you have two different ways you can figure out where there is a response for a particular request, or where the request was for a response. And you can look, if you click on packet 15 down here in the middle pane, you see the response is in packet 21, right? So if you see the request first and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, where was that answered, you can kind of dig down here in the lower level, and Wireshark goes ahead and does the work for you and finds out where the response actually came in. Ah, thank you. Yes, double click, not single click. There you go. It pops up there. Excellent. All right, so last thing is kind of the lower pane. So if you take a look at the lower pane, what this is a hex dump of all the stuff that's in the middle pane. So you might be thinking, well, you know, that's a lot of gibberish. How do I know what belongs to what? Well, all you have to do is click, right? So if you click up here in the middle pane, what you'll find is that it will highlight the portion of the lower pane that corresponds to what you clicked up here. So if I click on just the DNS part, it highlights down below like all the part that belongs to that DNS response. If I were just want to know about one particular part of the response, say, look at the flags that were set, I can click and it'll show me where a flag was set. And so it gives you it highlights in that hex where those responses occurred. Let's see. Oh yeah, and over here on the side part, so this is the hex. This is just the ASCII version of what you have over here. So like for instance where it says queries, if I click on queries and it's google.com, it gives me the hex dump, it highlights the hex dump, and then off to the side it says, well, what, you know, let me interpret that hex for you. What is it? Well, it's google.com, right? And we can see that in the middle pane and in the bottom pane. So this can, it might not be super helpful for you to look at this bottom pane. It has been for me, especially for development. If you ever use a tool, or if you ever program in a language called Python, there's a really nice tool called Scapy, S-C-A-P-Y. For you guys that are a little more advanced and you haven't checked that out, you might want to. It is a surgical knife for network traffic, and it allows you to take that traffic in through TCP dump. Allows you to cut that packet up any way that you want, and then if you wanted to resend that packet back out, it will allow you to do that. It's a really good tool in that I can cut the packet up any way I want to, and one of the things that you have to do to cut that packet up is this information that's on this lower pane can be really helpful because it gives you the data offset, and it also gives you kind of where in the packet you would want to cut it in order to resend stuff out. So if you ever play around with something called Scapy, Wireshark becomes really handy in giving you the ability. I'm going to do this really quick. Yeah, so Scapy is correct, S-C-A-P-Y. Okay, great. Let's go through the buttons at the top of the menu up here. If you want to do kind of a live capture or just start a live capture, you can hit the little fin button up here and it'll start a live capture for you. The stop button, of course, helps you stop a live capture. The little shark fin with the little recirculate there lets you restart a capture. We'll go over this in a second. There's a little button here with a gear inside of it that looks like half my logo. That lets you set options for a live capture, and we'll go into that later and get more in detail on that. If you want to open a new Pcap file, you can just go to the folder and open a new Pcap. The little X here over this allows you to close a Pcap folder. This little reload button is really nice because there's a lot of times where you will work on Wireshark and you will screw up the world. You'll have a bunch of filters in place, you'll have things kind of thrown everywhere, you'll have windows open you don't know that are open. You can hit this button and it'll just reload the capture for you back from scratch. And so when you get really screwed up and turned around, that's a nice button to remember. If you need to find a particular packet, you can come over here and it allows you to put in a display filter, but also I never use it for the display filter part. If there's a particular string I'm looking for, so let's say I'm looking for the string Google, I can hit enter and it'll go down to the first occurrence of where that comes into play. In this case, it's packet 15, right? And so it just allows you to kind of sort through some of the packets in a way if you're looking for a particular piece of data. We'll get into the display filters later, but this little find feature can be helpful at times. Let's see. You got some little arrows here to help you go. So got here, somebody said love discussion on filters. Yeah, we're gonna have a good discussion on filters here. So you can, with the arrows, you can kind of go back and forth to packets in case you're too lazy to click on it with a mouse, which this actually seems tougher. But if you're stepping through, say, a packet at a time, this is a nice way to be able to do that. If you need to go to a specific packet number, you can click this and do that. These two buttons are probably the most helpful out of it. If you need to go to the first packet or the last packet in the series or in the Pcap file, this just allows you to pop there real fast without coming over here and having to drag it all the way up or down. You can just pop up and down through the Pcap capture. These two buttons are interesting. So if you're doing a live capture, what will happen is your packets will start to just stack on top of each other, sometimes really super fast, right? And it'll scroll through and try to keep up with the latest packet. If you don't want that, if you see something all of a sudden that catches your eye as the packets are scrolling past during a live capture, you can turn this off and it'll keep that scroll from occurring and allow you to read the packet that you're after. The button next to it will turn the color rules on and off, and we'll be going over color rules later. If you have questions about that, color rules can be a very powerful way to highlight interesting behaviors without filtering those behaviors out. And so we'll be going over those a little later as well. If you're blind, you can enlarge or shrink the main text in the window. So there was already a comment about my slowly creeping up age out there. And so Brandy would probably insist that I do something like this. We'll keep it low for now. But if you need to shrink it smaller in order to get more information on the screen, you can do that as well. If you need to return, if you mess this all up and you don't know how to get back or what size it originally was, you can click the last little eyeglass here and it'll pop it back to its original size. And finally, resize packet list columns to fit contents. So if you kind of screw up your columns here and things are unreadable, you can just click this button real fast and it will resize things so that it's just wide enough so you can see the information that's available without having it, kind of trail off into nothingness where you don't know, what's behind. But it's just a good way to reset the screen is to hit this last little button. All right, cool. So I'm just looking through the chat here, see if there's any questions. Let's see. Yes, I do like Grand Stream. Scapy is a packet manipulation tool. I've got some of the tools that we make in class that we build with a Raspberry Pi to be able to do some interesting behaviors uses Scapy. If you've been to the TSCM 210 class, then you've seen that hardware and actually made that hardware and took it home with you. Scapy is very helpful for things like that. Joe Graber, hey, we're visually impaired. Yep. Well, I mean, I got the contacts in, so hopefully it helps a bit. All right, so we'll continue on here. So we mentioned filters. So you have a blank here. It says apply a display filter that will allow you to put a filter into Wireshark and narrow down this gigantic field of packets to exactly what you're looking for. There are different packets that you can put, or I should say different filters you can put in here to display those. If you went to the website, I asked you to download this particular thing here, a Wireshark display filters from Packet Life. This is a really good tool to have. I give this out in 2 of my 3 classes and just kind of print it up or give it to them on disk or whatever. It is really nice to have because it has a lot of the display filters that Wireshark will allow you to use to narrow stuff down. I'm going to show you later that it is useless to memorize all of these. I probably got 3 or 4 on tap in my head at any given time, but at other times I use a shortcut, and we'll discuss kind of what that shortcut is later. Yeah, so, but these are all things, if you type in, these particular things into Wireshark to narrow down, say, something that you're looking for, it'll take that and run with it. So let's give you an example here. So let's talk about IP addresses, right? So let's say there's something here that I want every packet that has a particular IP address. So I can type in ip.addr equals, and then the IP address that I want. So 192.168. Let's say 1.2. So I can put that IP address in, hit enter, or if I don't want to hit enter, I can also hit the little arrow key over here to acknowledge the display filter. But hit enter, and it's going to cut that all of those packets down to just the ones that I want to see. So in this case, it is the all the packets that have any packet that in the source and destination have 192.168.1.2. And so you might ask yourself, well, how do I know to use that ip.addr? If we go back to our display filters, ip.addr is one of the parameters that I can use to use as a display filter. So do we have a question?
Can you post the filters page to the website?
Yeah, so the filters page is on the website, but I'm going to throw it in the chat right now. This is where you can find the filters. So if you're looking for them, they should be there in the chat.
And do you have any resources for learning using Scheme?
Oh, okay, yeah, we'll get to that in a bit then. You can point that out. Right, so that's your display filter. So if I wanted to, I pick a parameter from that list. I use some sort of some logic here to assign a value to that, and then hit enter, and it gives me an output. So something I could probably point out right now instead of pointing out later that would be helpful is that down at the bottom of your screen you have something that says packets, and then you have displayed. So you'll notice that the number of packets is a larger number than the displayed packets. So the number of packets here, this is the number of packets that are in the Wireshark capture. Displayed is the number of packets that are left over after you've run the filter. So what this lets me know is that 99.6% of all the packets in this capture conform to the display filter. So, there is 99.6% of all the packets in this capture have a source or destination IP address of 192.168.1.2. And so this is kind of helpful to give you what's going on in the grand scheme of things, right? Just to look down here. Let's see. You notice that I put an equal sign up here, so double equals. A single equals doesn't mean anything. That's not a logical. So this is saying it's more of a logical operator. They call them operators. If you put a single single equal sign, that doesn't mean anything to Wireshark. That's an assignment operator usually in programming. So you want to put a double equal to be like a logical comparison. If you don't like to use double equal, you can actually put EQ, and that means the same thing, and you can run it and get the same deal. If you want to clear your display filter and go back to normal, you have to come over here and you have to hit the X button. Right? So what that's going to do is clear that up and pop you right back. I want to warn you though that there are issues that you have to watch out for the display filter. Sometimes what will happen is you will delete this, and then you'll go about your business doing whatever you want to, okay? And then you'll go, well, wait, I don't have a display filter. But as you can see now, Wireshark is trying to clue you in. There's gray in the background that says, hey, you've got a current filter on. That will not clear until you go up to this X and clear the filter. So you got to be careful of that, because sometimes you can get in kind of heat of the moment, erase your filter, forget that you erased your filter, and think you're looking at the full capture, and you're actually not. So be careful about that. The other thing to be careful about is, there's a drop down over here where you can select old filters. Is selecting an old filter and then forget to hit enter. So we're really used to seeing drop downs that when we select something in a drop down, it automatically happens, especially on the web. It automatically selects it, it automatically fills things out. It does not engage this filter. So if I come down here and I start working and I forget that I didn't press enter, I might think that I'm under this filter right now, that this is actually active, but it's not. Until I hit enter, that filter's not active, right? So just remember, clear it when you're done and hit enter after you put it in. Otherwise, it's not active at all. So let's say, all right, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a exercise. I'll give you a couple seconds to kind of suss it out and figure it out. But the question is, what if I wanted to filter on a particular source IP address? Look at the sheet and determine what I would need to enter. Okay, so look at your Wireshark filter sheet. Find the thing that you would need to figure out a source IP address. So if I want to filter on a particular source IP, what would I use? And once you figure that out, try it out in your window. Cool. What's that? Okay, great. So Roger threw it over there in the comments. I believe the chat will be available. There's a question there: will the chat thread be available after the course is ended? Yeah, so it should be. I'm going to. I might have to edit some of the content along the way to cut out some of the dead spot, but I'm planning on trying to make this a video and leaving it up on YouTube. So it should still be there. Yeah, so ip.src. So if we type in ip.src, and another thing to notice about Wireshark that's really helpful is if you get it wrong, your display filter bar will stay red until you get it right. So if you say ip.scr and you put that up there, you'll notice that it goes green, which is great. And it also will give you maybe suggestions for other filters as well. So like IP source host, RC parse route, or RT. So there, it gives you this green display. So so ip.src equals, and then we can go 192.168. Let's pick 1.2, right? I can hit enter, and now if we take a look, it says that it's still got the same number of packets in the Pcap, obviously, because I'm still using the same Pcap. But now the number that's displayed is 5,189. So there are 5,189 packets in this Pcap capture, where 192.168.1.2 was the source IP address. So that was the IP address of the device that was sending information. So yeah, so that's how you kind of you make yourself a filter file, or a display filter. there are some other things that are interesting as well. So you can use and, you can use or, and you can also use not as a Boolean or a logical operator in the display filters. So we'll do a kind of another activity here, and I probably won't pause as long. But let's say I wanted to know, so let me clear my filter here. So let's say I wanted to figure out what I want to see all packets that have an IP address of 192.168.1.2 and is a DNS packet, right? So I want to know where those two kind of overlap. The Venn diagram of something having an IP address of 192.168.1.2 and is a DNS packet. What is that overlap? So what I could use for that is the AND operator. So I can go my IP address equals 192.168.1.2 and is a DNS packet. So a lot of times if you're trying to look at the protocol of a particular packet, the answer to what kind of display filter will work for that is just the protocol. So if you want DNS, lowercase DNS. If you want, ARP, it's lowercase ARP, right? So they don't make that a mystery at all. Another thing is lowercase. Most display filters, in fact, all of them I can think of. There's some smart people in the comments. They might can think of another one though. But the most display filters need to be lowercase. So now I've got a display filter there, 192.168.1.2 for the IP address and DNS. We'll hit enter, and you'll notice that every packet that's shown has 192.168.1.2 in it, also has the protocol being DNS. And if you look down, you see that's 350 packets of the original capture that are displayed. And so now we're able to kind of push those two together. If you don't like and, you can use double ampersand. And I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. And that will give you the same functionality as and. If you don't want to use or, you can use the double pipe. So if you're wondering what pipe is, that is the shift and the slash that's up by your delete key. I believe that's the /. But that'll be that's your or. And if you want to use not, which is kind of an interesting special case, you can hit exclamation point and the thing you don't want to show. So if I do this, it'll show me everything that's not DNS, right? So let me clear that. So let's see. So one of the things that is interesting is to look at what's the difference between the and the or filter. So if you have an and there, like I said, it's going to give you kind of the Venn diagram, the cross section where you have, in this case, an IP address of a certain value and DNS, and kind of show you every packet that meets both of those qualifiers. If you use the or logical operator, what it's going to do is it's going to show you every packet where either one of those operators are valid. So if the packet has 192.168.1.2 in it, display it, or if the packet also is a DNS packet, display it. If they happen to both coincide, well, of course, display it. But if you've got this one or this one, then display it, right? The and is more exclusive. The or is more inclusive. It's going to show you more stuff. So yeah, that's kind of the difference between the two. And so if you're using and or, just know, and is more inclusive, is more kind of exclusive. It wants to get that Venn diagram type thing. Or is either one of these qualifiers. If either one of them match, then show me that packet. So let's see here. Where are we at? Cool. So I'm going to give you another little exercise here to try. And this one can get interesting because there's a right way and a wrong way. Oh, there's one more operator I wanted to show you. But I think, yeah, I will hold off on that. So Here's the question. Take a look at the filters on the sheet, and how would you tell Wireshark to eliminate every packet containing the IP address 192.168.1.2? Okay, so how would I tell Wireshark to eliminate every packet containing the IP address 192.168.1.2? And as soon as one of you have an answer, feel free to pop it over in the comments and let me know that somebody's kind of figured it out, and we'll charge forward. Okay, so we have somebody who just threw the not equal sign in the comments. That's an interesting one, and we're going to go over it because that always comes up a lot of times in class. And Russ Stewart there says not 192.168. Fairly close there. So use the not exclamation point. That's good. So here's how we're going to do this. So I will start kind of with the exclamation point, and so I can go ip.addr, and then you got to put equals 192.168.1.2, right? So that says if the IP address if the source destination IP address in the packet is 192.168.1.2, don't show it. So I hit enter, and it says there's only 61 packets in the whole Pcap capture where that is a valid condition. So some people put, if you put not at the front of it and said not IP address equals 192.168.1.2, that also will work. If you just put the not, or the I say we call it bang or whatever. So if you put exclamation point and then just the IP address, that doesn't work, right? Because you still have to have that ip.addr in there. Because to see if it's just if you want to see packets that have it in there, then you have to have ip.addr. If you want to eliminate all those packets, you put the not in front of it and hit it. And that can be spelled out NOT, or it can be the exclamation point. So I believe it was Hill Walker who used the not equals. All right, so I put that in there, put ip.addr not equals 192.168.1.2. This is a very dangerous logical operator to use because it doesn't make good sense what it actually means. And the reason it doesn't make good sense, or I should say this, Wireshark usually warns you when you make a filter that you think is going to do something, but Wireshark's pretty sure that you don't know what you're doing. When that's the case, Wireshark will give you the yellow display filter bar to let you know, hey, what you're about to do, you probably don't completely understand. You might want to take a look at this filter again. And so I'll hit enter on this, and you can see that what happens is 192.168.1.2 still pops up when you use this. So I do this every class. I see this every class where people use the not enter sign, and it kind of will mess with you because it doesn't do exactly what you think. So I have it written down actually what it does, and I have to reread it because it's a little complex. But so if you use not equal, what it actually means, and I'm going to read this from here, if there is any IP address other than 192.168.1.2 in the packet, then display that packet. So pretty much if there exists an IP address in the packet that is other than 192.168.1.2, then display it. So if you look down here, it displays nearly every packet when you put this in. So it is, I would just say stay away from the not equal sign unless you really know what you're doing. It's kind of a funny thing, but definitely use the not up front or the NOT up front to disqualify a particular condition so you can drill down. So I just saw a quick comment just out of the side of my eye. It says my screen is blurry. Sometimes what you have to do to get it to be a little clearer is if you can force YouTube at the little gear icon at the bottom right hand corner of the screen to force it to 1080p, and that will give you make it pretty clear, but your computer or your connection might lag a bit, but you can try that if you want. All right, cool. Questions regarding the display filter so far? If you've got them, throw them in the comments, and Brandy will let me know that they come through. And the next time I kind of slow down, I'll try to tackle them if you've got them.
You did have one question.
I think I saw that one already.
Making the filter inverse to start with an exclamation.
Yeah. Okay, so let's carry on. Here's something. Try clear your filters. And earlier I told you that I don't memorize all those display filters that are in that PDF. And the reason is because a lot of times you can build those on the fly. So here's an example. Let's say I wanted to display every packet that occurred after the 5-second mark, right? So I'll tell you the truth, I do not know what the display filter parameter is for, packet time. I don't have it memorized. It's not something I often do. It's stuck back there somewhere, but I'm sure it's been flushed a long time ago. What you can do is you can click on the time column that's in the top pane. Right click on that column where that time is. Go to Prepare as a filter. Click Selected. And what it'll do is it will make you a filter that's pretty close to what you want. So I can hit Enter on it, and what it's going to do is it's going to give me just one packet. It says, all right, well, this says the frame time relative, or the packet with the time 3.436034. I want you to display that. So it'll do that. But the great thing is, if I don't know how to create a display filter, I can right click on the parameter I want to change and then change the filter up top, right? So if my challenge here, like I said, is I want to see every packet that happens after 5 seconds, I can delete this. I can say, show me every packet with a time that is greater than. So you can use something we haven't gone over yet. You can use the greater than, the less than. You can have greater than or equal to. You can have less than or equal to, any of those logical operators. So let's say greater than 5. So hit Enter, and it shows me every packet that happened after 5 seconds. So I had no idea what the time parameter was, right? Like I don't have this parameter memorized, but I can click on it, right click, Prepare as a filter, and select it, and then modify the filter that Wireshark displays for me up at the top. Remember, after you do that and you modify it, you have to hit Enter to engage that filter. But I took one that just said equals a particular time frame and just said, well, no, let's get rid of that. Take and put a greater than sign there, put a 5 at the end of it. Now I see everything I want to see, which is every packet after 5 seconds. Yeah, so Joe says, just to be clear, right-click on a packet, not the whole column. Yeah, that's true. So don't right-click on the column up here. Make sure you right-click on the actual packet and the parameter you want to adjust. So right-click there, then you have that. If you, so then you can prepare and select it. And it also gives you other values, right? So let's say I wanted to say not, so it can prepare me a not filter, right? So it puts the exclamation point up there. And then I can adjust this as well. Prepare a filter is beautiful because now I can click on anything, right? Like I can click here and say, all right, well, prepare me a filter for this particular thing. So select it, and it says, okay, your IP source equals this. So It just made me a filter. I didn't have to know IP.source. It's going to now sort for everything with that IP address. The IP source is that IP address, right? I hit enter on this, and it gives it to me. So you don't have to know this long list of filters. All you have to do is be able to right-click on the parameter that you want, prepare as a filter, and then adjust that filter appropriately. Yeah, whatever portion you click helps determine the filter. Yeah, that's correct, Joe. So cool. Let's see. All right, so a little activity here I'll give you to do. If you click on packet 20, so we'll go down here and click on packet 20. Make sure you clear any filters that you've already engaged. So click on packet 20. In the middle pane, open up the user datagram protocol tree. So we're gonna, let me close some of this stuff out. So we're gonna go here. Right click on 53, so the destination port, right? And then if you go to prepare a filter, so the kind of the point of this is, let's say I wanted to, prepare a filter based on a port that's being used, right? So in this case, I can go to the destination port, I can right click, and so this is using the middle pane, not the top pane. So you can do it at the top pane, but you can also do it down here at this pane. So I can go to prepare a filter, selected, and then it's going to say, okay, show me every packet where the UDP destination port equals 53. So I can hit that, and bam, shows me everything where the UDP destination port is 53. So this ability to prepare a filter isn't just focused on this top pane. You can also do things in the middle pane, right? And that's really helpful too, because if you're doing some stuff like I do during my day job, and you're looking, you see a particular packet that catches your eye, and you're like, man, how many other packets are like that, right? Like, how many other packets have a particular flag set? Well, like, I can do that. I can find that flag, I can select it, and you can say, okay, well, show me every packet that has a DNS flag set like this, right? So it just makes a really quick, helpful way to find nuance and different packets that fall within that particular that particular tiny little thing you're looking for. Got a question here. What is the difference between prepare as a filter and apply as a filter? That's a good question, Douglas. The difference is that if you click apply as a filter, it will immediately engage that filter right away. If you hit prepare as a filter, it just throws the filter in the top of the screen, so you can then adjust that filter however you want to and then press enter. But if I go to apply filter and selected, bam, it automatically takes and engages that filter immediately. And so if I want to change it now, that this filter it's already showing me what the output of that filter is. It engages it right then. So if you're pretty confident that whatever filter Wireshark's about to give you is the one you want, you can go to apply as filter and have it happen right away. So hopefully that answers your question. I love the mistype there. Apply will make it happy or happen. I like happy too. Happy, yes, happy. That works. All right, so we've got that. We're going to look at so that kind of covers a little bit about display filters, a little bit about the panes. Look down here at the bottom. There's just a couple things I want to point out. We already talked about packets and displayed packets here. If you are clicking on a particular portion of the middle pane and you're wondering, like, well, how large is that particular portion of the packet that I'm looking at? If you look down at the bottom, it'll tell you that, oh, that particular portion is 3 bytes large. So you can kind of pick out different nuances of the middle pane about the packet, and it'll tell you how large that is. The one thing I want to kind of point out at the bottom that will be helpful for a lot of you who do this as a forensic type of activity is you click this little button down here that says open the capture file properties dialog, and it will throw up this guy. I'm going to try to shrink this down a little bit. Excuse me. And this just gives you information about the packet capture. Really important thing, it gives you the hash, right? So forensically, you can tell if this thing's been altered is you hand this packet capture from person to person. If somebody has stripped something out accidentally or purposefully, you can tell if that's been done because this hash would change. It tells you kind of the format, that's a Pcap. It gives you a lot of information about the capture. Even when it was captured. So it pulls the system time to let you know when the original capture was. This was done 4 years ago when I was setting this stuff up. And the amount of elapsed time, all this kind of great stuff. But one of the powerful things is down at the bottom. So I can type in any type of comments or notes or things like that I have for the capture. So if you're keeping a hold of this for any sort of a case or any kind of evidence file or something like that, or you're just for your own sanity trying to remember what happened in this thing or what packet, or you've got multiple people looking at it and they're all kind of pitching in, you can save notes down at the bottom of this packet in this particular area. Save those off so the next time you open up the packet capture, you've got those notes. So cool. Let's see. Make sure, check over here, make sure I've got everything I wanted to go over for that. All right, cool. So I think we've kept up with the questions. So yeah, so it looks like we're good so far. So now what we're going to do is talk about profiles. And this is really good if you have Wireshark on a system that multiple people use, and then you log into Wireshark or you open up Wireshark to do some work and you realize that all the stuff that you had set up had been moved around. If you want to eliminate that major pain in the butt, this is how you do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a profile. And what a profile is a way that you set up the screen that then belongs to that particular profile. And I'll show you what I mean. So first let's create one. So if we go to Edit and go to Configuration Profiles, so Edit and then all the way down to Configuration Profiles, click it. You're going to end up with a box that looks like this. Mine's going to look a little different because I've made all kinds of different profiles over the years, different pieces, parts. But what you want to do is click the plus sign. So click the plus sign there, and I'm going to create this profile. So we'll call this the live stream profile, just for my being able to keep difference here. So I click that. So type in any profile names you want. That's fine. Once you've done that, click OK. All right, so we've got there live stream. Okay, fantastic. And if it's still there, you can click OK again and get rid of it. So now in the bottom right of your screen will be a profile name, and it'll be the name of whatever you wanted, right? So whatever you typed into that profile name will be down there. And now just to kind of show you what happens, take and move some of these columns around. So just kind of arbitrarily grab some, kind of, change the size of them, kind of push it around a little bit. But just kind of make some space there. And now go down to your profile and go back to the default profile. So if you click back to default, it shows, it has everything exactly where everything started. If you go back to live stream, or in your case, whatever profile that you picked, and click it, it'll go back to the setup that you put it at. So I'm going to arrange these back. If you want to arrange your columns back kind of the way they were, you can click the last little button here, like we talked about. It'll put everything back. But yeah, so what you're doing is you're just allowing this so if you're a part of, say, a team of 5 people and you're always using the same Wireshark or laptop, I would suggest that everybody make their own profile name, and then no matter how they move that around, so if it's, Bob has a particular profile he likes, he can click on Bob and all the columns are arranged. all of the coloring rules, everything that that should be in the Bob profile will be there, and it'll automatically be loaded. If you don't want to do it by person, another thing you can do is do it by particular aspect, right? So if you have you're looking at VoIP phones and you have a certain way you want to look at VoIP phones, then take and make a VoIP phone profile. If you do data forensics and you have a certain way that you want to look at that, then have a data forensics profile. So you can have those different profiles and move them around. It's really good in class when I'm using it because I can take and somebody can create a profile. And the great thing is you can also take these profiles. A student can take these profiles home with them and move them from computer to computer. The way you can do that is if you go to Help and go to About Wireshark, there is a Folders tab. That Folders tab gives you let's see, it used to be up towards the top, but it's going to be further down. Where is this? I believe it's under personal configuration. Yeah. So you can take this personal configuration folder, and I thought there used to be a profile one there, but they might have changed some stuff out. But yeah, so you can take this personal configuration folder and it'll transfer your profiles over as well. And if you double click on it, it'll actually pop that particular, there it is, it's under profiles, yeah. So if you double click on personal configuration, the profiles folder will pop up and you have each one of your profiles there in a folder. And you can move those folders to the same file location on a different computer and it'll see that and give you access to your profile. Cool. All right. So that's profiles, and we're going to be messing with that particular profile that you made, so you might want to keep that in the bottom right-hand corner live during the rest of this. So the next thing we're going to do is set up columns. So I'm going to give you some columns to add to Wireshark that I find particularly helpful no matter what I'm doing, especially when I'm doing VoIP stuff, but you might have columns that you like to add as well. So you're free to add whatever, but we're going to kind of go over how you add those extra columns. So the first thing I'm going to do is right-click on any one of these column headings. It doesn't matter which one, it doesn't matter where. Just right-click on any heading of a column. You'll have this drop-down, and you will have a menu item called Column Preferences. So we're going to click that, and you're going to have this pop up. There are 3 column preferences, or 3 columns that you'll want to add to the columns that you have there. The way you add it is you go to the plus sign and click it, and it's going to give you this new column and number identifier here. So what you want to do is double click on where it says new column, and you can change this title. So the first thing we're going to have is a destination port. So I'm going to say DST port, and just to make things short, hit enter. And I'm going to take this type field and kind of pull it out a little bit. But under type, where it says number, if you double click on it, it gives you a drop down. And now you can find the thing that you're looking for. What we want for this one is the destination port. So if we go up to destination port, and I'm going to say destination port unresolved because I want to actually know the number. If you click resolved, what that'll do is that will resolve that to the actual port type. So if it's particularly like telnet, like port 23, right? It'll say telnet instead of port 23. I want it to say 23. So destination port unresolved. I'll click that. So after I do that, I'm then going to take that destination port and I'm going to move it up the stack underneath destination, because what I want is I want to be able to, when I look across my screen, I want to see the destination IP address and then the destination port right behind the IP address. So I'm going to add destination port. The other thing I'm going to add is a source port. So I'm going to say SRC port. Double click on number once again. and go down to Source Port Unresolved. Click it, and then I'm going to move this up to be right underneath Source. So source address and then source port. The last thing that I want is something a little unusual, is I'm going to call it del time or delta time. And you should find that, I think, underneath the D's. Yep, delta time. And what delta time is that is the amount of time that occurs between packets. So it just takes the previous time, the current time, subtracts them out, and gives me the difference between the two. So the obvious place to put that would be right underneath time. So once you have all of those set, you can click OK, and it will populate those on your screen. So now I've got my time, and it looks like it actually. Did it give me my delta time? Let me see. Go back to column preferences. Yeah, so my delta time, I forgot to move up underneath time, so I'm going to do that again. Okay, hit OK. There we go. What happened was my delta time was stuck way, way over here on the side of the screen, and I'd have to scroll way over to find it and drag it over. If you do have a problem, if it drops a, oh, and it looks like, yeah, let me just do this. There we go. If it drops your column in a really weird location, then what you can do is you can click on that column and just hold it down, and you can move it wherever you want. But I'm going to have mine right here beside time. Another thing is, if you find that all of a sudden that your packets are crazy out of order, if you go over here to where it says number, NO, and you don't have a display filter engaged, but it just says number, you can click that, and it will then sort by the packet number again and put everything back the way it was. Because sometimes when you add a new column, you'll click, you'll do something weird, and it'll sort by, destination, which is helpful to no one. Well, it can be, just not in this context. So you can click number, and it'll sort everything out there. So I'm going to take a look here at the comments. Do we have any questions that came in? Can you apply 2 filters at a time? That's one question. Yeah, you can. The best thing to do though is when you're messing with that is you can use the moniker and or, but there is another way you can do it. And if I remember, you can take one way to do it to keep your filter from getting super long. And I'm sure there's somebody in the comments that can clear up some things on this. But if you take and you say, let's say I put in some sort of filter, right? And I engage that filter. All right. Well, that was worthless because that wasn't a good filter. But let's say here we go. Yeah. So engage this filter. I get this output. What you can do is you can export specified packets. So you can just export to a different Pcap the packets that you filtered out, then open up that Pcap, and then apply another filter on top of that. So you have a group of packets that were filtered out, saved off to a different file, and then you go to that other file and apply another filter there. And so a lot of times people will do that if they have a filter that gets say 50 ands long, and they're really worried about that filter getting lost or getting screwed up or something like that, right? What you can do then is save off or export the packets that are there, save it off to a different Pcap file, and then reopen the Pcap file, that new file, in a different one. And that way you can kind of start with a fresh filter. And every packet that you're looking at was a product of that initial filter that you put in. Would both filters display time on the apply filter screen? Wait, no. Oh, no. Would both filters display on the apply filter screen? Yeah, so same thing there, right? Like, really what you're doing with the display filters is it's good just to use or and continue to stack filters on top of each other. And so you see the output of those filters being put together, or save off that particular filtered content, or export that filtered content. So let's see, what do we have here? Recommend aligning columns to center info for ease of viewing. Yeah, so you can do that as well. I believe it's right click, you can hit align to center, and some of this stuff, like if you don't want it kind of left justified or right justified, you can right click on a column and align the information within that column how you want it. So good one, good there, Chris. Yeah, so I'm just looking through real quick. I think everything is cool. So guys, we've been going for about an hour. So what I'm going to do is we'll just take a quick break. If that's cool with you guys, maybe you want to grab something to eat, use the restroom, whatever, and we will pop back on the stream in, let's say, roughly 5 minutes. If that sounds good to you, well, it doesn't matter. That's what I'm doing. No. Yeah, so if you have any comments, or you want to keep talking, or you have questions, please go ahead and do that in the comments, and we'll just take a little break. We'll start back at, let's say, we'll give like 10 minutes, right? So 11:20. Does that sound good? Hope so. So yeah, we'll do that. Think the audio is back on? Yep, looks like I'm getting a feed. Cool. We'll start in about 1 more minute. Yeah, it says wardrobe change. Yeah, it is. Yesterday it was 80 degrees here in Huntsville, and it was fantastic because it's the first really warm day we've had where it's been warm and not raining. And so today it seems like we're going to hit about that again. That's the time of the year where in this household we will let it get 78, 79 degrees in the house. So it's about 72, 73 right now. Perfect t-shirt weather. So I had to lose the collared shirt there. What was that? What are you laughing at?
Sound like a trailer park weatherman.
Yeah, a trailer parker. Fanny said I sound like a trailer park weatherman. Great. Fantastic. Let's see. What do we got? All right, cool. So I think we're ready to go. If you got your columns all sorted there, and you kind of want to see the power of profiles, if you go to Profile and you click on your default profile again, it will pop back and eliminate all those columns that were there originally. If you go back to your profile you created, it repopulates those with the columns right where you left them. So it's a really nice, powerful tool. It's a nice, powerful tool to be able to make it where everybody has their own preferences set. And if you sit down to work with Wireshark and you're on, like I said, you're on a team, you just hit Profile, you drop to a thing that you're used to seeing or that you want to see, and you're ready to go. Cool. So we'll move ahead here. So what I want you to do now is just close any Pcap that you have open. So you can do that here when you go to close, or you can actually go to the little X button here and close it out, and you will get shot right back to this first screen. And I'm going to kind of show you how to make a live capture down here. What you're going to want to do is kind of pick the interface that you are accustomed to using for your internet. For a lot of you, that'll just be the Ethernet interface. Some of you are on Wi-Fi right now, so you'd have to click your Wi-Fi interface. And just to kind of show you a way to see kind of what interface is active. When you originally come into Wireshark, you'll see this network activity graph that'll occur right beside the interface that's in use. And so I've got different VM connections and stuff that are happening, so you're going to see all kind of stuff on mine, and I've got some insane stuff going on. But my Ethernet interface is fairly active, so I'm going to click that, and you can just double click on this and rock and roll, or you can come up here and click the little shark fin after you've clicked which interface you want to capture on, and what you'll see is stuff just starts populating right away. The profile that you had before, it is engaged when you start this capture, and you'll see, the packets just start scrolling. If I come over here where it says number and kind of pop it out, you'll see this thing just keeps growing and growing. So now we're up to 17,000 packets, and that's okay because at the moment I am live streaming from my computer. I have a feed coming back. I've got all kinds of stuff happening on this computer at the moment, so there's going to be a ton of traffic. Some of you have seen some protocols that are passing there. You might recognize some of those protocols, but if I wanted to take and all of a sudden just kind of kill this stream, not kill it, but have it continue to capture, but let's say I see a packet fly by that would, let's say, catch my eye, right? So I can take and I can click this little button here, and this will stop the screen from scrolling. The capture is still happening because you'll notice that my little bar over here, where I'm at in the packet, keeps rolling. But now I can examine individual packets, right? And if I figure out, like, okay, I look at this packet, I kind of go down into it and start looking and see what's going on, and then I'm like, oh, well, I want to catch back up to what I was doing before. I can hit that, and now I'm right back to seeing the live output again. So yeah, so that's kind of a live stream or try to get a live capture. I can also hit the stop capturing packets here and stop it all, so it stops capturing completely, and do filters. You can do filters on this while it's live capturing. So let's say you want it to continue to capture packets, but you just want to see stuff that say DNS that pops up. I put DNS in the display filter, and it's going to filter on just or show me those DNS packets as they occur. So this is doing a capture on this box. Now in class we get into how to do captures on, say, a general network, or different ways to say get in line with somebody else's box. Like I've got a little network tap here that we build in class, and everybody, so fun little things like this, so you can tap into a line and be in the middle, because there's some applications there where I don't necessarily want to be running my forensics tool on the box that I have suspicions of, correct? So there are ways you can do that, and we're not going to get into those here. We're just kind of focused on Wireshark, but that is an option, and there's plenty of YouTube videos out there to show you how to make a network tap, set up a network tap, how to use, if you're curious about this, how to take a switch and set up a mirrored port so that you can take all the traffic that's running through a switch and port it towards yourself. So yeah, there's a good bit of resources out there for that. We're going to go over now some capture options. So you can close out the existing capture, or you can just go up here and click the little the gear button. Gives you capture options. So let's say I wanted to start another packet capture, right? But excuse me, but I wanted a few more things to be able to kind of tweak. So as soon as I hit that capture button, it gives me some options here. It shows me that same display of interfaces that I had before. I can pick the interface that I want and choose which one that I want to capture on. So once again, I can do Ethernet. The thing is I can hit the control key, and I can choose more than one interface to capture on as well. So if I'm looking at say a box, like you could have a box that has an Ethernet connection but is sharing its Wi-Fi connection, or has a Wi-Fi connection and it's sharing an Ethernet connection, or has multiple Ethernet connections on it. I can hold down Control key and I can pick as many interfaces as I want to be able to do what I need to. So that's this part. If you click Manage Interfaces, it'll kind of give you even greater, I guess, insight into what those interfaces are, like the actual interface name if you're having issues there. But generally, I usually don't use that too much. Enable Promiscuous Mode on all interfaces. So this is good to have, especially if you're doing any sort of network forensics where you are employing Wireshark on a machine that is not the one that you is not the one that you have questions about. So for instance, you have a machine that you've got hooked up to a network tap. What Promiscuous Mode does is allows you to capture packets that don't belong to you. So if you have some stuff that's being addressed, IP addressed, or you have packets that are going up and down the network line that probably aren't yours, then if you have that not clicked, you won't see them. But if you click that and you go in Promiscuous Mode, that allows you to just suck up all those packets like a vacuum cleaner. I would say in just about all cases you'll want this checked, and it's on by default. Let's see, we'll pop on through here. This is a way where you can put in where it says capture filter for selected interfaces. So this is where you can put a filter in ahead of time, and so what will happen is it will only save packets or capture the packets that meet those filter guidelines. So let's say you're a police officer or investigator and you only have a warrant for a particular IP range or an IP address. You can put that in there and kind of assure yourself that you're only pulling down that information that you're legally obligated to. And you can do other things too, right? If you don't want to end up with a file size that's super huge, and you only want to see certain packets, like just because of storage issues, you can put in a packet there ahead of time. I will warn you that this uses a slightly different packet filtering mechanism than the display filter, and there's this thing called a Berkeley packet filters. But a lot of the stuff, and I can't even believe I'm going to attempt this, yeah, that doesn't work. But like, so IP, right? So your IP, if you're going to filter on that, like really, it's going to be different. So if I put IP.addr, that don't work. But you know, IP, and then going through, and I'll see if this is working. This is dangerous ground for me because I never use Berkeley packet filters. But yeah, that doesn't work. But there are lists of filters out there, Berkeley packet filters, so that you can kind of get into this game if you want to. To tell you the truth, I really never use this because I generally want to see all the packets and have all the packets on hand and not filter them out ahead of time. So I rarely use this option. So there's probably a lot smarter people than me out there on this particular piece of Wireshark, and if you have questions about that, then please ask those in the comments, and there's probably somebody there who'll point you in the right direction. Output. So this is a very nice option to have. If you start capturing packets just right away, you just hit the shark fin up the top, start capturing, it's going to save, or it's going to be putting all those packets in a temporary file. And if you're like me and one half of your your drives for your computer is solid state and a small solid state drive, and the other one is a large hard drive, right now by default Wireshark saves my stuff to the solid state drive, which isn't necessarily all the time what I want. Sometimes I want that stuff because it's a large capture. I want it to be saved to the larger mechanical drive, right? So in that case, I can tell it, hey, when you run this, I want you to save all of the information in a particular file. And so you can put that here and go ahead and have that information, those packets going to a particular location, so it doesn't just go to the temporary location. The output format, Pcap or Pcap NG. Pcap is kind of a universal standard. It's been used for a long time. Pcap NG is kind of the newer format, I should say, but it just stores a lot more information and data about the packet capture. And so you see more and more a lot of migration to Pcap NG. I can't talk intelligently about that too much because I've just kind of migrated myself to that. They both work with Wireshark. I usually just go with Packet NG. If you're doing a lot of jumping between tools and stuff that are geared towards older, not older, but if you're using tools that say just use Pcap, right? Like you might want to save all your stuff in just Pcap, just for ease, ease to work with, things like that. Create a new file automatically. So this is a nice option to have in that you can save off the packets that you capture in chunks, which if you've not done a lot of Wireshark, this is really helpful because if a Wireshark packet capture file gets too large, sometimes what will happen is you'll go to put a display filter in, and it will have to crank away at that display filter, sorting through all those packets, and you can be sitting there for 15 or 20 minutes waiting for that machine to get through all of the packets. And so sometimes it's helpful to limit the size of the capture. So let's say you capture a gigabyte's worth of data. Well, instead of having a file that's 1 gig large, break it up into 200 megabit chunks, right? So, or megabyte chunks. So you could have 5 200 megabyte files, and that way when you run a display filter on one, it just sorts through it fairly easily. It chops through it, and you don't have to wait on anything to be sorted through. Now, obviously, our computers are gotten a lot faster than when this was created, and so you can probably use a larger chunk. The first time I had this introduced to me, kind of the standard file size that a lot of people were using were 200 megabytes, and so you can have it just save off a new file every 200 megabytes. But the create a new file automatically has a bunch of different functions. So I can say, all right, after in this case a certain number of packets, save off a different file. So we'll say in this case the default is 100,000. So I could say, hey, every 100,000 packets, I want a new file. After so many kilobytes, or in this case we can say megabytes, or we can say every gigabyte, save a new file, right? Or we could say after so many seconds, right? So and this is great, like if you want to treat it sort of like an access control system with cameras, right? You can say, all right, every 24 hours I want to have a new file. And then you can also have, when time is a multiple of, okay, yeah, so just the different options to be able to save off a file. Also, it says a ring buffer. So what that means is, let's say you have a limited amount of space. Say you got a gigabyte drive, right? And you want to, say, break it up to 200 megabyte chunks. What we could do is say, all right, every 5 files, I want you to go back, when you turn the ring buffer on, after you get done with the 5th file, I want you to go back over to the first file and record over it. So this way it's very much like that access control camera system where you have the option of overwriting a previous file or not lose, or just kind of having it on the ring, right? A constant recording ring. So you're never going to use more than, say, that gig or that particular file size, right? So dip over here to the comments. Let's see.
Recommendations on good Wi-Fi adapter capable of monitor mode.
I'll talk about the Wi-Fi adapter stuff later, so just write that down, and we'll talk about some. If we have some time, we'll do the Wi-Fi adapter thing at the end. There is some stuff is changed regarding that. Some stuff that used to be better than others. Cool. Save files to hard drive, but runs entirely in memory. Yeah. So yeah, there's yeah. So some people are saying that Pcap NG is no good for them. That's definitely true, especially if you're sometimes using some Linux tools. Start npcap service. Yeah, if you're on a Windows machine. In fact, there's we'll write down USB Pcap to remind me later. But so it looks like we're pretty decent there. So generally the capture interfaces thing is just for you to kind of set up the capture like you want it. The last thing here on options, you can stop the capture right after so many packets or so many files are captured or so many seconds. If you decided to take and capture after such a size was captured, like you can stop it. There's some different display options. So there's and different name resolution options. The interesting thing about this, normally I would say turn this off because, so there's some MAC address information that Wireshark can resolve natively because it has a file that can do that. But there's also, resolve network name, result transport names. Sometimes what will happen is Wireshark, and I think, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think usually what happens if you have those clicked, Wireshark will reach out over the internet and try to resolve those names. And if you're trying to stay silent on a network, then that could be problematic. However, if you're doing a capture on a network interface and you haven't already set up your stuff right to block that, then you've already started with a problem to begin with. But anyway, there are just different, more options there to be able to craft that capture the way that you want it. Yeah, okay, so David brought up a good point. Since Wireshark runs in memory, if you load too large of a file, it will crash. So yeah, just be aware of that. So I'm going to close this out. No capture name, even don't care. There. Alrighty, so we'll look at coloring rules now. So if you you should have some kind of capture data there. If you don't have any capture data in your window, feel free to go and grab one of the Pcap files that you downloaded from the website. That's cool. We're going to talk about coloring rules. I am going to, let's see. Yeah, I've got a lot of stuff here. I think, let's see, what's the best way to do this? Yeah, we'll go ahead and open up the lots going on capture. Not save this. Yeah, so go ahead and open up the lots going on capture. So coloring rules. If you go to View and click the menu option there and go down to Coloring Rules, you're going to have this window that pops up. It looks like this. And what this is these are all the default rules in Wireshark that they kind of give you right off the bat as far as coloring things, okay? So for instance, if you have a UDP packet, it's going to show up in blue. A TCP packet, it's going to show up in purple. If you have SMB packet, it's yellow. And these things are stacked in priority, right? So let's say, for instance, you have a TCP packet that happens to be HTTP. Well, it's going to show green before it shows the purple color. So, so you've got different ways of drawing. It's coming. Just a second. All right, there we go.
Yep.
We back?
Yep.
Cool. Let's see. You guys got me? Great thing is it's back, and it appears that the lag that we had is less than it was before, so that's cool. All right, fantastic. All right, so we were back on coloring rules. So that was View, then down to coloring rules. Is everybody? If you get the coloring rules, then hopefully you are where we're supposed to be. Cool. Looks like everybody's good. Sweet. Okay, so so we're talking about coloring rules, and right before we got cut off there, what I was saying was that these coloring rules are stacked in order of priority, right? So if you have an HTTP packet that is a TCP packet, right, that it's going to color that thing green instead of purple because it's higher up on the list. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a DNS packet, which is typically UDP, and turns up blue, and we're going to give DNS its own color. So if you click the plus sign down here, it's going to say New Coloring Rule, and if you double-click on the New Coloring Rule name there, you can call it whatever you want. So we'll just call it regular DNS. Okay, and then you double click where it says filter, and what this is this is going to allow you to put in a display filter. So if I want to add a display filter that is that will key in on anything that's DNS and color it a certain color, all I've got to do is type in DNS. It then takes and makes it green there, showing me that I am using a correct filter. I hit enter. And now I have a coloring rule called regular DNS, and it is the filter is DNS. Well, now I've got to give that coloring rule some colors. So if I highlight it, I can say, all right, I want the foreground of this thing to be, let's see, white. So that's usually the text color, right? So I'm going to make it white. And I'm going to make the background, let's say I'm going to make it a darker green, our normal, just a green color. So now it'll show you up here, this is what your coloring rule is going to look like. It's going to be a background of green, the text is going to be white, and then if I come over here and, click that. Now I can take, and you'll notice that this box doesn't have a check mark in it. I click it, that makes the coloring rule, it turns it on, is what it does. And then you hit OK, and it will go back and it will take all your DNS packets and it'll change it into that color. This is particularly helpful when I am looking at, say, teaching class, the VoIP class, right? We'll color everything, that's SIP, we'll color that a particular color. We'll color all the RTP traffic a particular color. We'll color X traffic a particular color. So there is a lot of ways that you can arrange this so that it catches the eye. But it's not just for eye catching. And that's what I want to kind of get across to you, is that if I go back to my coloring rules, and there we go. I'm just going to erase this because I don't really need it there. But if I go back to the coloring rules, I can add filters that indicate behaviors, right? So I could say, if I wanted to, add a coloring rule where I have a particular IP address, and let's say I got an IP address 192.168.2.1, and that IP address happens to be talking telnet, because I know that for some reason my admins told me that, all right, well, this particular IP address, it never acts on this particular protocol. So what I can do is I can create a filter for that and color it a particular color, like a bright orange or something, to catch my eye. And anytime in the traffic that I see that thing occurring, that behavior, or that packet that's displaying that behavior, will highlight a particular color. And so it makes it really nice to be able to find things or weed out things, that behaviors that I want to try to catch. We have a question here.
Are the coloring rules stored in the profile?
Yes, the coloring rules are stored in the profile. So if you make a particular coloring rule, you'll actually see it down here in the bottom right-hand corner too of the coloring rule thing. It says where it's located, and the coloring filters are all under your particular profile name. So if you grab your profile and move it to a different machine, you're moving your coloring rules with you. The other thing about, I'm going to erase this one. The other thing about coloring rules is that, like, people who do this for a living, like for data forensics and stuff, some of them protect their coloring rules like it's their baby, right? So I mean, like, this stuff makes people money. So if they have particular rule sets or things that highlight particular behaviors that they're called in to look for, like, it's almost to them like a proprietary jewel that they don't want to share with anybody. Their coloring rule sets is what helps make them money, right? So, so coloring rules can be a very powerful thing because of that. And so you can already see that Wireshark themselves put some stuff in there, right? So like TTL low or unexpected, it's got this pretty complex filter here to let them know, like, hey, if this occurs, then this is, like, we want to know about it. If there's a TCP reset that happens, then we want to know about it. If there's a particular, scan that occurs, it pops off certain flags, like, you can write a filter for that, right? So there's some interesting behaviors you can capture with this. Let's see, I believe that's all for coloring rules. Okay, so if you want to, here's just an activity for you. And looks like I didn't click OK when my coloring rule's set, so I got to go back into it anyway. So what I want you to do is write a coloring rule that shows every time 192.168.1.2 sends information to 192.168.1.1. So I'll read that again. Write a coloring rule to show every time 192.168.1.2 sends information to 192.168.1.1. So this is going to be in your lots going on Pcap. Write you a coloring filter that will create a particular color anytime that condition exists. So I'll give you a few seconds to work on that.
Are there any good places to look for other people's published coloring rules?
That's a good question. So are there any good places to look for to find other published coloring rules? I don't know. I've not looked at that to see. If anybody out there on the comments has a place where they look for decent coloring rules, if you wouldn't mind just posting that up there. It's a question from Hill Walker. I'm not. I've never. I don't think I've ever looked for public coloring rules. Probably should. That's a good resource. We'll write that down, and hopefully after this we can throw that in the description or something. Or if we have a follow-up video, we'll address that. So good question. Dave, share profiles with your friends. Yeah, like really, it's a good idea. Do that. All right, so I'm just going to call this, I'm just going to write over my DNS coloring rule I made. So I'm just going to call this special case and my filter. All right, so what I want to do is I said I want to write a rule to show every time 192.168.1.2 sends information to 192.168.1.1. And what would that look like? So if it's sending information, that means it's a source IP. So I want IP source equals 192.168.1.2. We want to send information to 192.168.1.1. So that means the other half of this filter is going to be an IP destination, which we haven't talked about yet, but you could look in your filtering sheet and see ip.dst. Or if you wanted to, you could go back to the main little area there and kind of right-click and select a filter and figure out what that IP destination filter would look like. And we want to know the combination of those two, right? So it's kind of exclusive. So I'm going to put and. So IP source this and IP destination equals 192.168.1.1. So hopefully that makes sense to everyone. So I am looking for when .2 sends information to .1. So I want my source to be .2. I want my destination to be .1, and I want the kind of the Venn diagram of the two of those, where those two kind of conditions overlap. So hit enter. Cool. And then I got to make sure I hit OK this time to and make sure that my checkbox is checked there. Hit OK. And it did absolutely nothing because I screwed something up, I'm sure. Let me go back and look. Oh, no, it didn't. We're good. Sorry about that. I just was looking at something else. Yeah, so now if you take a look, you will see where this happens. So our source is 192.168.1.2. Our destination is 1.1. And so it's not going to filter everything else out. All it's going to do is color where the condition is true. So I can keep scrolling down here if I want to, and we'll find other places where that happens. 182, there it is again, from 2 to .1, right? Keep going. You can look over here in the sidebar too, and you'll see places where the green will pop up. Every once in a while I see the green flash on the screen. There was one again, right there. And so it's just kind of a way, so like I said, so it just catches your eye. Now if you really wanted to filter on those, and just see those particular packets, you could filter them in the display filter and just see those packets. But remember, the coloring rule is there more for it to kind of indicate to you, well, this kind of behavior is occurring quickly with a visual representation of that. Looking at the comments here. Yeah, all right. Yeah, so see some comments about coloring rules. Yeah, Google that stuff. Lots of profiles, coloring rules out there. Yeah, so neat stuff. But like I said, that just kind of highlights behavior. When you're done with the coloring rule, you can go to View, Coloring Rules, and you can then take it out if you want to. So you just click on it, click minus, it'll kill it, hit OK, and everything's back to normal. Like I said, the coloring rules do travel with your profile, so you will always kind of have that. Coloring rules going along with your profile wherever you end up going. All right, cool. Final question here. What's this? Is this whole class going to be available for future viewing? I believe so. I'm working on that. This is the first time I've done it, so I just need to make sure that that YouTube's going to do what I think it does and save it off and allows me to edit it, stuff like that. But yeah, it should be here for future viewing. Douglas Spawner, disregard my last comment. If you did what you wrote, what if 1.1 is the source? Will it filter correctly? If you put 1.1 as the source, it would. 192.168.1.1 as the source. If you have 1.1 as the source and destination, I don't think you would have any takers on that, because I don't think there's any packets in this capture where 1.1 talks to 1.1, so it'd have to be 1.1 as the source and 1.2 as the destination. And you can look and see that, and there are packets that do that, and it would color those particular packets in that way. So yeah, so that is something you can do. So yeah, here we go. So things like that. All right, cool. Another thing there's one more thing I want to cover, and then I can kind of release you on some different activities if you want to. Is statistics, the statistics page. So there's a lot of stuff in statistics that you can look at. A lot of cool stuff that we're not going to spend time looking at, just because, like I said, this is a beginner's course and you can go for days in all of these menus. There's really helpful stuff in there. Play around with it, like look at stuff. I mean, there's one thing like called endpoints, right, where it shows you all of the particular endpoints or all the particular IP addresses and stuff that talk to each other in the actual packet capture. There's all sorts of different things you can do. But one of the things that's kind of good to look at is one called protocol hierarchy. Bring this over here. So what this is this is a breakout of every single protocol that is in your capture. So if you need to understand, all right, well, how much, let's just pick one. How much of the traffic is a JPEG? Well, I can go down here and I can see, 0.6% of the traffic is JPEG. How much of it is TCP? Well, that's 92.6%, right? And the way this is helpful is, let's say you're doing network forensics, and you know for certain there are certain protocols that you should not see on that network. Well, if that's the case, then you can go here and look really quick and just find that low-hanging fruit, right? So if FTP is not supposed to be on, well, and you see FTP traffic, well, you can pick that out, right? If for whatever reason they say, hey, we don't allow, this is a closed network, there's no web traffic, right? And all of a sudden you see, stuff riding over 443, like some sort of SSL traffic or, TLS traffic, you can go, well, what's that, right? Or just port 80, something on port 80 where you get HTTP traffic, like I believe here, you can pick that out really quickly and go, well, that doesn't belong. And then you can, double click on that, and I believe, right click on that. You can prepare a filter about that, selected, and then in the background you'll notice that it prepared an HTTP filter for you to see those packets. You have to be a little careful when you're using a protocol hierarchy because it is subject to the filter that you have on. So if I go here and close this out and I click on this filter, and let's say I engage the HTTP filter, that's cool. I've got all my HTTP traffic now. And I go, well, let me go back and look at that protocol hierarchy because I've kind of forgot what I was looking at. I go back, I go to protocol hierarchy, and whoa, what happened to all my traffic, right? All those other packet types, all those other protocols have disappeared. And that's because I have this filter engaged. If I come up here and I disengage the filter and then go back to it, it's still not going to be there because this protocol hierarchy display was visited when the display filter was engaged. So it's not going to show me the right stuff. So what you need to do if you want to see all your filters again is clear your display filter, then go back to protocol hierarchy, and everything is then there. Another thing to watch out for, and I see this happen a ton, is you're busy, you're like focused, you're trying to get stuff done, you're like, man, I want to, I got a filter on that, so you right click and you prepare a filter and you go selected, then you click Wireshark behind it and you click it and you hit enter and you're like, oh cool, well let me take a look at that. All right, well then you take and you go back to protocol hierarchy and you click it and you're like, you know what, I need JPEG, that's what I'm looking for. Apply a filter, prepare a filter, and then we go selected and you pop up here and you pop back and you hit enter and do it again, and now you go back to protocol hierarchy again. It's like, I need to get tighter on this, I got to figure this out, and you're like, okay, well, and then you're like, oh wait a second, all right, look down at the bottom here. We now have 3 protocol hierarchy windows up, and what inevitably happens is someone reduces Wireshark, and then they're stuck with all these protocol windows and they don't know which one's open, which one's closed, which one. So kind of make it a habit that after you're done with the window to close it, because if you don't close it, then you could end up having some problems. And this goes for all Wireshark windows. If you continue to open the windows and just go behind the window and go back to Wireshark and not close the windows, before long you'll come down here and you will just have this string of windows and you won't know what belongs to what or why it belongs there. So always remember that this stuff happens, and especially if I know a couple of you guys on the chat are instructors. If you walk up behind a student and you're like, where are you? The first thing you do, go down there and pull your cursor over Wireshark and see how many windows they have open up, because that could be a problem, just confusing them. And then the other thing is, if they're having problems, is make sure you clear that display filter, because that can kind of suss everything out, and if it's really screwed up, you can just reload the whole Pcap, right? So if for you guys who are instructors and you kind of walk behind somebody and you just see all of a sudden this crazy stuff on the screen, those are a few things you can do. Cool. I've got a couple of exercises here. So there is a PDF on the website, or in the packet capture that I sent out. Let me open that up. Let's see, classes, live stream. Here we go. So if you look at the Pcap, there are 4 questions there that I want you to go through. Work through those. As you work through those 4, I'll give you, we'll say, I think you can get done with this in about 10 minutes, probably. So I'll give you 10 minutes to go through this exercise. If you do me a favor, and when you're done, if you just kind of put in the comments, just comment done, that would be helpful. And I will, if it's faster than 10 minutes, I'll still wait to 10 minutes. If it's if nobody says done in 10 minutes time, I'll know you're still working on it. So go ahead, start with that. I'll jump back on at 12:17. So, and if you need a small break too and you get done, take a break. But yeah, so 12:17, we'll be back up and running. All right, so we're back at it. Hopefully everybody's getting the audio again. Okay. Let's go over the worksheet there. So it says, first of all, following exercise will help acclimate you to Wireshark environment. Recently, you were approached to examine a very short Pcap file. The Pcap file is 001. Where did I go? So I'm going to open that up. Let's see. There it is. All right. So I have this open. First question. How many packets were captured and how much time elapsed between the start and end of the capture? So the number of packets, we can just get that real easily down at the bottom of the screen, 3,506. So that's just a matter of knowing where to look. Or you could have scrolled all the way down and looked at 3,506. And this would have also given you the amount of time that elapsed. So 18.586, so approximately 18 seconds or so. So that's what we're looking for there. The next question, it says filtering packets can be helpful, especially if you don't want to focus, or if you want to focus on particular characteristics of a packet. Display only those packets that contain a source or destination address of 192.168.1.2. Use the following filter. So we've got a filter here. We can just copy and paste it. It says incidentally, this is the IP address of my home computer. Or I should say was the IP address. After filtering how many packets are displayed, you don't have to go digging for this answer. It can be found within the main Wireshark window. So if we look at this, I'm going to paste this in. Hit enter. Right, and like I said before, you don't have to go kind of digging for how many packets this is. You can just take a look down at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen and see the number of displayed packets. So that's going to be 3,482 displayed packets. So that's how many packets there that are involving that IP address, 192.168.1.2. All right. The next, what percentage of the packets captured is HTTP traffic? This can be found by going to Statistics menu and selecting Protocol Hierarchy. Now you have to be careful here because before you go to Protocol Hierarchy, you've got a filter engaged. So you need to make sure that you clear that filter. Okay. Then go up to Statistics and Protocol Hierarchy, and you're going to have HTTP hypertext transfer protocol there, and that's going to be 2.7%. If you neglected to clear the filter, you're going to have a different answer there. And it's going to be an answer as it pertains to that particular filter, right? So it might be a slightly different percentage. So be careful about that. Remember, if you're asking questions about the whole packet, you need to just remember to clear that filter out. And lastly, it says right-click on the HTTP protocol entry, select Apply as Filter, and then the selected option. Now only HTTP traffic is shown. Explore these packets and determine what website was loaded. One public IP address is repeated many times. Focus on packets with this address. So I'm just going to throw HTTP up here and start looking, right? And so there is several things you can do. You can start looking through here, trying to figure out, what website I'm going to. We can start to look inside of the actual packets themselves. So if you're looking for particular types of information, it's good to, we have this IP address that's repeated over and over and over again. It looks like my computer's reaching out to. And as we start looking, we'll see that there is an address, a host address that keeps popping more and more, and that's goodbrowngravy.com. So if you wanted to see what that looks like, you could do that. I wouldn't recommend this for if you're doing network analysis, just to go arbitrarily popping onto websites that you don't know what they are, but You can go to this one. This is a website we used to run for fun, and so it has just some random content on it. Let's see, where was that? Ah, yeah, back here. So answer to question 4 is goodbrowngravy.com. And like I said, the way you get to that, you just kind of have to start kind of digging through and looking at the contents of those packets. I wanted to show you kind of a bonus application here that I asked for you guys to download. It's called Network Miner. If you open that up, when you download this, you have to unzip it, and then it's just ready to go. It doesn't install. The first time I heard about this was in the context of another class, and someone had told me that this was developed as kind of like a Wireshark, like a simple Wireshark type of software mainly for police who run criminal cases or child pornography cases or different internet crime cases. And you can, with this, capture just like you would in Wireshark on an interface if you wanted to. You can do a lot of different things, but the good thing, one of the big things you can do is you can bring Pcap information into it. So if I go to, and another thing too is that it is Pcap, not Pcap NG at the moment, but I'll have to play around with that. I haven't tried to force it to go Pcap NG. But if I open up where did I go into Network Miner, it loads up all of these different packets, and right away it shows me, okay, this packet has 69 hosts that are in the packet, right? So I've got, I've got 69 hosts that were represented in the Pcap. Real quick, there's a question here. Where are the exercises located? If you look down in the description of the video, there's a link, and the PDF is located in the file, the zip file that I had everybody download. So this just lays out. So 69. It tells me there are 29 hosts that are included in this Pcap. Files that went back and forth. It'll actually break out each individual file. Now a lot of this is cookies and CSS files and JavaScript files and stuff that went back and forth in order to make this capture work. But it also is JPEG files, right? PNGs. The actual content of the web page was sent back and forth in that file, and this breaks it out for you. Images. It will take and parse out and look at those images as well. So it will reconstruct them for you so you can see exactly what was sent back and forth during that capture. If it happens to see some credentials that go back and forth, it'll capture the credentials. If you have any kind of connections or sessions that happen between hosts, you have that there. Any DNS that was requested, so there's Good Brown Gravy, there's different Google stuff because of ads and different, all kinds of stuff that sent back and forth. All those DNS queries are there. Any sorts of parameters that were sent back and forth over the wire. If you have keywords that you're looking for, so let's say gravy. So you have to put the keywords in first before you load the file in order for it to suss through and figure out the keywords that you're looking for. I'm just going to remove that. And then I'm not entirely sure what anomalies are. Oh, wait, buffered frames to parse. I haven't messed with the anomalies that much. The other thing, too, is it kind of assigns a MD5 hash, right? Or it gives you the MD5 hash of the file. And over here in like you have this little case load thing that's loaded up. I don't use Network Miner that much, to be honest, but I do think it's a very powerful tool to kind of give you a first look, right? So if you're trying to figure out what's going on, you want some quick insight on like kind of looking at just kind of the overall statistics of what's happening with the capture, right? You get a quick look at files, if there are any images there, what kind of sessions are connected up, the hosts that are involved, it lists out for you. So there's some really cool stuff you could do in Network Miner. Like I said, just kind of a first look. It's not the end-all be-all. It's not what you want to do to do your deep forensics. But it is a nice tool, I think, to have in the arsenal for a quick look. So yeah, I always kind of show this because some people really like having it around, and I can't deny that it is kind of a helpful tool. If you want, one other thing too, I was just looking at, if you want to know more information about a particular host that you have, it is kind of nice that you have this drop down. It lays out the MAC, the vendor, the age of the MAC, how much was sent, how much was received for it. So it gives you some really good insight on what's happening overall. Let's see. So I'm going to take a look at the comments here, see what we've got. Pat Shea, best case is to open the Pcap NG and Wireshark and save as Pcap using Network Miner. Yeah, that's a good point there, Pat. That's if you have a file that's saved as Pcap NG, you can take and go save as and save it off as a Pcap as opposed to a Pcap NG, and just convert it and then bring it into Network Miner. So yeah, good catch there. Has anyone used Cap Loader? I personally have not, but I'm going to write that down because that sounds like something I need to look at. I don't know what that is. Which file did you open in Network Miner? Oh, I just opened the Where Did I Go file, the same one that you did in Wireshark. That's the one that I opened there, William. Yeah, cool. So I've got an exercise there for you to do in, let's see, close that out. Oh wait, I should have just left that open. Yeah, so down at the next page, there's an exercise called Shady Bob. It is 3 pages long, and it goes through 2 different Pcaps. A Pcap called 002 Shady Bob, and all the way to question 10, and then a bonus material that is 003, the return of Bob. We are not going to go over this today. I think what I'm going to do is end the live stream here and give you guys time to work on this. If you want to take a look at this, go through it. What I'll do is we will, I'll let you do this. Some of you are different time zones. It's getting close to lunch. I know it's close to lunch here. Go through this, and I'll say I will pop back on the live stream at, let's say 2:30 Central. So that would put 3:30 Eastern Time, 12:30 California time. Better yet, let's say 2. Yeah. So 2 p.m. Central. I'll pop back on the stream. We'll go over the stuff for Where Did I Go, and hopefully answer some more questions or some things that might have popped up. So that'd be 3 p.m. Eastern, I believe, and let's see, if you got 2 p.m. to 12 p.m. California time. Hopefully, I'm right with that. Yeah, cool. So do that. I'm gonna, me and Brandy are gonna have some food here, and then what I want you to do is when you come back, is just go to the Skinny Research and Development YouTube channel. There will be a new live stream there, and I will have that up and kind of clicking away, I imagine about 1:45 or so, hopefully. So go there and wait for a new live stream, and it'll just be, it'll be entitled, say, live stream homework or something like that, right? And we'll go over these questions and talk about them, and if there are any more questions, we'll address them then. So if that's good for you guys, then we'll do that. And just looking at comments now, Brandy, they want you to say hi on camera. So that's Roger. There you go. Yeah, so thanks for attending, guys. We had like most of the feed, like 90 something viewers. So cool. I'll look at doing some more of this, depending on how long this whole thing stretches out, and hopefully we can do some more. But yeah, so I'll see you guys back at like 2 p.m. Central. All right, so thanks for coming by. I'll see you.